Hello everyone. Are you ready to explore the different ways we measure student learning? In this video, we'll dive into various types of assessments and discover how they help us understand and support our students' progress. Let's get started. Teachers and stakeholders often ask questions like, how well do my students understand the material? Are all my students meeting their learning goals? Are my classroom strategies preparing my students for future success? Our classrooms are filled with diverse learners, each with their unique learning levels and needs. This diversity means we need different types of data to truly understand and support each student's learning journey. To help students with different learning needs, we use different types of assessments. These assessments give us important information to support every student in the best way possible. In this video, we will explore different types of assessments based on two key areas. First, the stage of instruction, assessments that are given during the learning process. And second, the interpretation of scores, assessments where the scores help us understand how well a student performed. We will also look into their subtypes in detail. Let's begin with assessments that happen at different stages of instruction. These assessments are used at specific times before teaching starts, during the lessons, after they finish, and even after a program is introduced. For example, a placement assessment helps us understand where students are before teaching begins, while a diagnostic or a formative assessment check their progress during the lesson. Summative assessments are used at the end of a teaching period, and impact assessments are done to evaluate the results of a program. We start with a stage of instruction before teaching begins, known as the placement assessment. Placement assessments check what students already know, what they can do, and even how they feel about learning. This helps teachers understand where students stand before introducing new concepts, allowing them to adjust their teaching methods as needed. It's an essential step for grouping students effectively and planning the lessons that truly meet their learning needs. For example, before starting a new academic year, students in Andhra Pradesh take a placement assessment to determine their current level in subjects like math and Telugu. This helps teachers group students based on their existing knowledge and skills, ensuring that each student gets the support they need from the very beginning. Now, we move on to the assessments that happen during instruction, specifically the formative assessments. These are ongoing checks that help teachers see how well students are understanding the material as it's being taught. They are used to monitor learning progress and determine how well learning outcomes are being achieved. This way, teachers can adjust their teaching methods in real time to better meet students' needs. For example, during a lesson on fractions in grade 4 math class, the teacher gives students a quick quiz after explaining the concept to check their understanding. This helps the teacher adjust the lesson if needed. Some of the common strategies of formative assessments include entry and exit slips, muddiest point, polls, direct questioning, and group work. Another key assessment during instruction is the diagnostic assessment. This type of assessment is used when teachers notice that student might be struggling with a specific concept. It helps identify the exact areas where students need extra help, allowing teachers to focus on those areas and improving understanding. Diagnostic assessments are a type of formative assessment that provides detailed data on students' knowledge, skills, and abilities. Diagnostic assessments are more comprehensive, often uncovering learning needs that formative assessments might miss out on. For example, in a grade 6 science class, a teacher notices that many students are struggling with the concept of electricity. The teacher then gives a diagnostic assessment focused on electricity to identify specific areas of difficulty for each student. After instruction is completed, we use summative assessments. These assessments evaluate how much students have learned over a specific period, like the end of the term or the academic year. These assessments help us evaluate the overall learning and progress students have made after the instruction is completed. They summarize the student learning. Summative assessments help check if a student is ready to move to the next level of learning by seeing how well they understand the subject. For example, at the end of a term, grade 8 students in Andhra Pradesh take a final exam covering all the topics learned during the term. This exam measures their overall understanding and readiness to move on to the next level. In the field of education, there are several stakeholders who play important roles. These include students and parents who are the heart of the learning process, teachers who guide and educate, schools which provide the environment for learning, government and policymakers who set the rules and regulations, and education boards which oversee standards and assessments. Each of these stakeholders contributes to the overall success of the education system. Finally, we have impact assessments, which are conducted after a program or an intervention has been introduced. These assessments help us understand the effectiveness of the intervention and whether it has made a positive difference in student learning. By evaluating the impact, we make informed decisions about continuing, expanding, or even modifying the program. An intervention is extra help or support given to students who are struggling in a particular subject or skill to help them catch up with their classmates, which can be done through impact assessments. Impact assessments evaluate the effectiveness of programs and interventions. They compare performances before, during, and after an intervention to determine its impact, whether positive, negative, or neutral. For example, if you implement a project based learning in a class, you would compare baseline, midline, and endline results to assess the program's impact. At the same time, outcomes can also be compared between two groups where a program is happening, called the intervention group, to a group where there has been no intervention, called the control group. For example, after introducing a new reading program in a primary school, an impact assessment is conducted to evaluate how well the program has improved students' reading skills. The results are used to decide whether to expand the program to other schools in the state. Now, let's discuss assessments based on score interpretation. These are evaluations where the results are understood in terms of what the scores represent. There are two main types: norm referenced and criterion referenced. Norm referenced assessments compare a student's performance to that of their classmates. Suppose a statewide exam is conducted in Andhra Pradesh for grade 10 students. If this exam is norm referenced, a student's score, say Ravi's score, would be compared to the scores of all the grade 10 students who took the exam. If Ravi scores in the 70th percentile, it means he performed better than the 70% of the students. Criterion reference assessments measure a student's performance against a fixed set of criteria or learning standards. For example, in Andhra Pradesh, a criterion referenced assessment might be used to determine whether grade 3 students have mastered basic reading skills. Each student's performance would be evaluated based on whether they met the predefined learning objectives, such as being able to read a passage fluently, regardless of how other students performed. In summary, norm referenced assessments compare students to one another, while a criterion referenced assessments evaluate how well students meet specific learning goals. In summary, we have covered the two main types of assessments, those based on the stage of instruction and those based on the interpretation of scores. Now it's your turn. First, make a list of all the assessments you conduct and categorize them as placement, diagnostic, formative, summative, impact based, norm referenced, or criterion referenced. Next, take a look at your last formative assessment. Analyze it to identify any learning gaps that need to be addressed in your next class. This exercise will help you better understand the purpose of each assessment and how to use them effectively to support student learning. As educators, understanding these different types of assessments empowers us to make better decisions for our students' learning journey. By using the right assessment at the right time, we can provide targeted support, celebrate success, celebrate progress, and ensure that every student has the opportunity to succeed. Remember, assessments are not just about measuring what students know, they are about guiding them towards their fullest potential.